we are going to do a few fun things today. The first thing we're going to work on is correcting red eye. And what is red eye? Red eye occurs when the retina of the subject's eye is reflected in the camera by the flash. So let's take a look at how we can remove that. We have a very simple tool in Photoshop that can do that for us. So you'll see a picture of a dog with red eyes, and we're going to go up to our tool panel and all the way down to our spot healing brush, open that up, and then click red eye tool. And we're going to change the pupil size to 10 and the darken amount to 1%. I just simply click on the red eye and you'll see that it gets corrected. Now you'll have to play around with those numbers depending on the size of the eye that you're working with. But as you can see, it made a big difference. Alright, now let's take a look at another option, and that's adjusting the brightness of one of your photographs. So I picked a photograph of a couple of animals in a dark barn, and we will play around with the highlights, lowlights, and midtones. Alright, you can see those cuties. So what we're going to do is just enlarge it a little bit, and we're going to go over to our levels, our curves rather. And we're going to select the white spot. So click on the little eyedropper that indicates the white level, and then you're going to pick a point on your picture to adjust the white. Now you can also click auto and it will auto adjust it for you as well. It's always good to see where Photoshop will take it when you click auto. Now you can by hand adjust this as well just by clicking on the point and moving it along the line. Just look at how that changes the picture. Alright, now let's take a look at the midtones. So select that eyedropper and then select a place on the canvas for your midtone. Alright, it has changed the tone of the image, as you can see. Now let's check the dark tone. There you go. So now you're really seeing a different contrast than before. Again, you can play around with these by just clicking on the line itself and rearranging and moving it up and down and seeing how that changes your image. You can also go up to the presets and select some of those options like linear contrast or medium contrast. Just play around with these options. You'll see how it changes. And if you don't like what you see, you can always click auto again. It'll bring it back to Photoshop's option for brightening the image. And what's nice about playing around with the curves when you use the curve panel is that if you've done a lot of work on this and you still don't like it, you can just go over to your layers and delete it. So just see, I'm just pulling it up and down so you can kind of see what's going on. How the image changes. You can hide and show that layer just to see how it changes, how the changes have affected the image. Now let's talk about blur a little bit. This tool is a great way to kind of highlight one aspect of your image. So if you have a particular animal that you want people to focus on, or if you have a particular subject in a photo that you want people to focus on, you can use the blur technique to subtly blur the background, and that pops the image you want people to focus on forward. So I took a very nondescript picture of some weeds actually, and I'm going to make sure my layer is highlighted, and I'm going to convert my image to smart objects. And you'll see that the icon is a little different now for that image. And now I'm going to go up to my filter. I'm down to blur, and I don't see it in there, so it must be in blur gallery. So let's go to blur gallery, and we're going to choose iris blur. Play around with all of these options for blur though. Now you can really see the difference here. with the background being blurred versus the object that I want focused. So I'm just going to center where I want my focal point, and then I'm going to pull my ellipse down. There we go. Yeah, I think that's good. Maybe a little smaller. Okay. Now, you can rearrange it, and you'll see an inner circle that you can arrange the feathering of, which is what I just did. You see how it feathers for a nice transition. Now, if you move out just a little bit, you'll see an option for radial blur right here. And you can adjust that number. I'm going to put it here. And that just slightly blurred the background so that we focus on that center point. Click OK when you're done. And then it brings it right in. And now you can see how that has blurred. All right, and you can shut that off and turn it on over in your panels so that you can kind of see how the filter affects your image. Okay, now we're going to do a panoramic image. Now this is really fun. You will go out and you can take as many images as you like of a panoramic view. So we're going to take several different photographs and then we're going to stitch them together. It's important that when you take your photographs that you do some overlap in how you take your photographs so it does a nicer job with stitching the images together. So what you want to do is go to Automate and Batch, and then you're going to select the files. We went to Almond Marsh and I took a few images, so I'm going to pick these 4 images here. You select them all by holding the Control key or the Shift key down and click OK. They all import. Then let's click Perspective and make sure Vignette Removal, Geometric Distortion Correction, and Content Aware Fill are all selected as well as the blend images together, and click OK. And it will take a little time, especially depending on how fast your computer is. So just be patient. You can see that all the images were brought into separate layers, and now Photoshop is stitching them together. I'm fast forwarding through a lot of the progress of the stitching just to save time for you, but it will take a bit of time for your images to be stitched together. It'll be a lot longer than what you're seeing here. Alright, and now you can see the 4 images have been stitched together to create a panoramic view. Alright, and you can see the active areas, some of the marching ants around the active areas. Those are the areas that Photoshop has filled in. And if you go over to your panel, you can actually hide that and you can see what Photoshop did. See how it merged those photos and then it filled in the rest of the image for you. It's a pretty cool tool. Alright, that's where we're going to stop today. Have fun playing around with those tools.